Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very subtle, but has really damaging implications to Black hair care brands. So, sometime last year, I was randomly scrolling on Instagram and I came across a post by a cosmetic chemist called Javon Ford. He was responding to a post where someone made a video calling out Black hair care products, stating that they are literally trying to kill us. Haba. For more context, I saw a couple of random videos like the one Javon was referring to. Basically, these videos stated that Black hair care products are specifically toxic. Coming back to the video Javon was referring to, it was misleading in a few ways. First and foremost, it had Black hair care products in the background. And then the video was also referring to studies from the EWG. So the EWG evaluates beauty products. They are a nonprofit company that does research, but these days they actually feel more like a marketing company. So, about these EWG studies, the video reference, they stated that some ingredients like paraben, formaldehyde, and so on, importantly, which were not found in these products in the video, caused uterine cancer, fibroid, and so on. To be very, very clear, most hair care brands make a conscious effort to avoid these problematic ingredients, and I was so happy to see Javon dispelling the myths and funniness and BS in the video. But I was just shocked about what I felt was a smear campaign against Black hair care brands. And it didn't stop there. The smear campaigns or the smear tactics have actually evolved to stylishly pandering to Black customers. I also started noticing that some influencers were marketing hair care products typically tailored to straight hair made by mainstream hair care brands to people with textured hair. So today we're not whispering around this topic, we're not. We're just going to go straight out and ask, are Black-owned hair care brands being targeted? Yes, are they being targeted? Welcome back to another episode of Unraveling the Knots, the podcast where we explore the deep and interesting world of curly and coily hair. I'm Gania, your host. I'm a beautypreneur and natural hair lover. If you've listened to our previous episode, a special shout out to you. As our returning listener, we'd like to thank you for tuning in week after week. And if you're new here, welcome. We're really glad you could join us. And I am joined by a phenomenal woman. She's a hair care coach and educator. She works closely with people trying to understand their hair, their product choices, and the larger conversations around natural hair care. And she's been our guest before, guys. Once again, welcome to the UTK Podcast, Rahma, aka the 4C Hijabi.
Alaikum and hello everyone. Super excited. Let's dig in.
Oh, so I know you've been here before. You still have to introduce yourself because we have new people listening to us. So
I'm sorry. So already Gani has done a lovely introduction. As you guys already heard, I am very much dedicated to the education of Black hair care, especially for Black women and even more specifically Black Muslim women. I began this journey because I did not have that information. And sometimes a lot of the information that was coming out was very confusing. My day job, I am an educator for people who are much younger than my general audience on social media. So another thing I leverage is the ability to break down information in the way in which people can understand and make sense of, because I feel like we've gotten to that point where for a lot of people hair care can be very, very confusing. So that's pretty much what I do. I focus on helping my community make practical, sensible, enjoyable choices with their hair, and literally hope to help, just like the hair coaches have done for me, that I've had that helped me get to this point, get them to a point in which they have a strong foundation for their hair care, their outlook on their hair, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, the whole thing. So that when they hear crazy things like what some of the things you shared, they don't falter, they don't start to question. And so, yeah, that is literally what I'm here to do in this space. I run 40 Hijabi, which is my education page for hair care for Black and Muslim women. But I'm also the co-founder of Curls, Coils and Sisters. It is, we know, the first Black and Muslim hair care event dedicated to Black Muslim women in the UK, possibly the world. We're not sure yet. Nobody has disputed that claim.
I haven't
And what we
seen
do is
anybody disputing, so yeah.
so at this point, no one has disputed, but there might be somewhere else in the world where someone has ran one before 2023. But what we did was literally bring in all the experts, all the amazing women who, a lot of Black-owned businesses. We really do focus on curating and handpicking some of the best Black-owned businesses that we are able to curate within the space that we have. And from things like scalp analysis to experts, trichologists, to business owners who can talk a little bit more about products and how they affect us, to so you come to the event. If you've got any questions, we've got somebody there that can answer it, or at least direct you to who can answer it. If you want to buy products, you can rest assured we pick the best of the best. You have a product for every single thing, but also it is a place in which Black Muslim women can reconnect with their hair. It's a safe space to also have a voice and to discuss some of the deep things that we are going through. So that's Curls, Coils and Sisters. Sorry, I have a WhatsApp group for just Muslim women only, Black and Muslim women, to be fair, but that the primary focus is Muslim women, because that's another demographic that's not really spoken about very much. And this is where literally the girls have basically free access to me, and the wonderful women around the world as well, who can help them, advise them from things like mothers not knowing how to take care of their baby's hair, recently married women and ghusl, different hijab styles. We do challenges every now and again. They get first dibs on events and so much more. It's an absolutely amazing group. And what's been brilliant to see is those foundations that have been laid at the start. Whenever a new girl comes in, the sisters are just so welcoming, and I almost feel like I can now take a step back, because they take over and they literally, I'm like, I don't need to share anything else. They already know the basics. Someone asks a question about detangling, someone here is going to be like, oh, I remember when we learned ABC. And that is literally what I'm trying to curate. Having that strong foundation and confidence in your hair care knowledge, to the point where hair care does not feel overwhelming anymore. So yeah, that's literally me in a nutshell. Oh, and I also created a coloring book for my nieces, which is Black Hair and Hijab. It's on Amazon, and it's a physical book. And I think I also have an online version as well that can be downloaded. But the reason I created it is because my nieces wear hijab every now and again, and they have very tight coils, and there literally is nothing there to represent. And so I created that as an Eid present for them, and a lot of my followers wanted it. So there you go. We've got a coloring book as well to go with it.
That's
Yeah,
so
that's
wonderful. That's so wonderful. I have to say, I admire your commitment to building spaces for people to feel comfortable and embracing their identity. I think that's something that resonates across your work, and I think that's truly beautiful. It is.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Mm.
thank you so much for joining us. And, today's topic can become emotional very quickly for a lot of Black
Mm.
customers. I hate to use the word consumers. I feel like it's very
Mm.
problematic. We're not just created to consume, right? So we know that a lot of Black customers feel protective when it comes to Black-owned hair care brands, and it makes sense.
Mm.
So for many years, we had mainstream beauty companies ignore textured hair care. They misunderstood us, and they kind of treated us like we're like a side category. We're not relevant. So we have now Black founders created products for our hair. A lot of people feel seen, and a lot of people in the natural hair community are now noticing a pattern. I'm noticing it, and I've spoken to a few people and they've noticed it. You have a Black-owned hair care brand. They create a company, they gain loyal customers, and then suddenly they're questioned heavily online. Or they build a product line for textured hair, and then you have a bigger brand that comes up with similar messaging, similar ingredients, similar packaging language, and massive, enormous marketing budgets. Or you have a Black hair care brand that makes a mistake, but the reaction feels very harsh and unforgiving compared to when you see like a mainstream brand fail Black customers. So now that Black-owned hair care brands have become valuable, they become visible, and I would probably say influential, right? I'd like to get other people's perspectives on whether or not we're being targeted. So I'd like us to start from there. When you hear people say Black-owned hair care brands are being targeted, what do you think they mean?
For me, I feel like there's levels to this. There's intentional and non-intentional, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of it is you could argue non-intentional. The reason I say this is there are several things happening. There's a psychological aspect of the way the natural hair movement started, our expectations of it, and a lot of us came in with really zero knowledge about the hair on our head, like scientific knowledge about the hair on our head and how to get to the long hair aesthetic that a lot of people desire. I think that that's a reality that needs to be spoken about.
Yeah.
There's also the psychological parts of being enslavement, colonization, and it had a lot of impact on how a lot of us chose to even go about our natural hair journey. And for someone like me, I didn't think about it politically at all. However, that was constantly being brought to me. So whether directly or indirectly, it has that effect.
Yes.
But then there's also the nature of capitalism and business and a certain group having a large monopoly already. And whether you're a Black-owned business, a Spanish-owned business, any other owned business, their goal is to always maintain the monopoly within the system. And so, yes, there is possibly some targeting, but also sometimes it might not be because you're a Black business.
It's not personal.
It might, that's why I say there's levels to it. So there's the expectation that the Black community have for our hair care products because we've been let down so much. I also want to make a distinction, and this might answer some questions further down the line. I want to make a distinction between a product marketed towards Black people and a product that's Black-owned, because there's so much conflation going on. And in the past, a lot of the products that were marketed to us were not Black-owned. If you think of a lot of the relaxers, they were from foreign brands that were marketed to a lot of Black women. They contain a lot of harsh chemicals. There was very little care at that time given to our health as Black people, because the goal was, let's get this look by all means necessary, because it had a lot of meaning in terms of your access to jobs, how you're perceived, and so much more. So I think as a Black community, because a lot of us were in survival mode, we probably couldn't afford to have that level of concern and to have that level of scrutinization. And what is happening, I think, this is just my opinion, is now we are free to do that on some capacity. It's like we've not really been allowed to, and now we're dissecting everything. But there's that conflation between a product marketed towards Black people and the history with products marketed towards Black people being harmful versus Black-owned brands. And because I think of the signifier of the word Black, a lot of them get conflated with each other. And so we need to be very careful and separate the two. Because I have seen on the back end of that, people say things like Black owned or products or Black marketed products marketed to Black people are the worst, so on and so forth. But you have to be very careful, because if it's a Black owned brand marketing to Black owned people, that does not necessarily mean that they are shifty, or they are intentionally trying to bring other Black people down and not caring for their health, so on and so forth. So that's what I mean by there is some unintentional targeting happening even within us. So that, I feel like, is more the psychological and historical side. There is also the way that movements work. So now more than ever, we are really allowed to delve into the science of our hair, to learn about our hair, to learn about in which ways we can make it grow, or how it behaves in different situations, the way in which we didn't have that focus in the past. So what it means is, as new science comes out, there will be development on whatever was there. And for a lot of people, let's say, for example, people said things like silicones were bad. Right? There's been a 180 on that now again.
Yes.
But because we're just dealing with the information that a lot of people are dealing with, the information that they had there.
Yeah.
So as science improves, it's not that people just want it to be horrible or to lie or to. There are a subset of people that were like that, and it's all about money, which will come into the capitalism later. But then what it means is we want the best thing that is, scientifically backed and so on and so forth. We want to make sure that products we're putting in our hair have that scientific backing. But there needs to be an understanding that science is forever improving.
Exactly.
And what works now might not work later. And it's very important, because when it happens with Black-owned businesses, like you said, there is far more scrutiny. Whereas there are brands who are very well established. And this is where I say the unintentional targeting can come in, because let's say a brand is very well established, has been there a lot longer than Black-owned businesses, because they've had the privilege to grow, and so on and so forth. And I'm really going to talk about the parent companies here when I talk about them. I don't want to call out any brands, but all I'm going to tell you to do is go to your local beauty supply, or your supermarket beauty supply store, supermarket ones. And I want you to check the back. I think America's a lot better than the UK, but I do want you to go and check the back of major hair care products. And I want you to start to notice, or even cleaning products, you will notice that there are certain parent companies that are very, very, very prominent. So there's already a level of established trust. So if they err or if they falter, they've got a lot that people already trust, and they can say, and also a sense of affordability. We're going to get to the capitalism of it all. And so inadvertently, that harms a lot of Black-owned businesses. And then we get to the level of, like I said, capitalism wanting to have a monopoly. I will delve more, I think, when you ask another question later, as to how that actually plays out for Black-owned businesses, because a lot of them are small businesses.
Yep.
And this is a struggle that a lot of, so you have the issue of being a small business. There is a perception, the expectation of you being a Black-owned business and what people want from you. And if you cannot meet that expectation exactly, there's very little room for error or forgiveness. That a lot of brands have other big brands have the marketing power to pivot. So the money that goes into marketing is also very, very important. It's a lot. These brands, the parent companies, invest a lot in marketing. And a lot of Black-owned companies don't have the revenue to do it on that big scale yet.
Yeah.
So that, again, is another thing, because marketing is really what changes perception.
Yep.
It's very, very interesting that, like you said, they are now focusing on, why are they focused? Because there's money to be made.
Exactly.
Because they've noticed a demand. And that is their concern. And I feel like we really are doing a disservice to a lot of Black-owned businesses when we, yes, hold them to a standard. I don't think we should lower our standards, but also give them a certain level of grace. They don't have the marketing power to pivot, pay a really influential person a lot of money to come on here and talk about them using our products, or them saying things have changed and things have turned around, so on and so forth, yet to that level, to that massive scale. I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. We're not just talking on a social media scale. We're talking TV, we're talking buses, we're talking a lot of money goes into that. And so they can pivot. And you could probably remember a few brands you're like, oh, this specific brand, everyone is talking about how it's made them lose their hair, and then all of a sudden now everyone's saying, oh, these are the brands that I'm using now instead of Black-owned products. I actually think, and this is just from my anecdotal experience, the narrative has been more harmful coming from other Black people. Now, whether or not they are paid by brands to do that is a different story and probably worth investigation. But it has come to a point where, even though they don't say it, that's what it sounds like. When you say something like, don't use a product, we see this on social media. Social media has a lot of power, especially for people of color, as we know. When we say things like, don't use products marketed to Black people, be very careful, because a Black-owned brand will market to Black people, because that is the people that they want to cater to. And so it's almost like you're punishing people for marketing to Black people. We complained about not being represented, but what is now happening, and I'll close off on the question on this, is that we are penalizing people for showing more representation. Now, like I said, there is a discussion to be had about products not going through proper protocol and safety and it affecting people. There's a discussion to be had about how people misuse products as well.
Exactly.
And how there could be other things relating to the hair loss, but everybody then wants to say it's a certain product. That's also a discussion to be had. And then versus now demonizing Black-owned brands, or now saying things like white-owned brands work better.
Yeah, I
That
heard that,
is
and
where
I
I
was
feel like
shocked.
the direct targeting really, really begins. And I find that, without being too cross, extremely disgusting, coming from the mouth of somebody who should understand better, should know better. And I've seen this happen on several occasions, and I'm like, you're not really thinking this through. And unfortunately, to see so-called professionals come on here and say things like Black-owned products don't have the science. I have worked with brands and consulted with brands who have had Black formulators who are so focused on the science, they will spend thousands and thousands of their own money without any funding to go through that testing process, to put a product in front of you, only for you to sneer at it because it's Black-owned, or to say that they are not science-backed enough, or to literally put them in a box that it's only for curly hair or only for styling, and it's not for other areas of hair care, because you haven't heard about them because of marketing. I could go on and on and on, because I had a back and forth, but yes,
No.
intentionally and unintentionally.
I think what you said is so crucial, because I have a hair care brand, and as you said, science keeps evolving, and science is good in terms of trying to determine facts, but it's also kind of fluid. I feel like it's rather interesting that people don't recognize the fact that a lot of people that paved the way to make textured hair a category were Black people that were trying to solve a problem. There is no way anybody can tell me that a product that is created for somebody who has straight hair would be as effective or efficient for somebody with coily hair. It could help, right, with certain things, but the formulation are different because these hair types are different. And it's rather sad that people, as you said, being influenced by marketing, just ride on these perceptions and take it as truth. We really, really need to start questioning things better, especially professionals in this space. And you know what? Contrary to popular belief, Black-owned hair care brands don't just sell shampoos or conditioners. They're also selling understanding, which is what we've highlighted. A lot of these brands were created for Black, or should I say colored people. It's not just Black people, because textured hair, trust me, you have Black people with textured hair, you have white people with textured hair, we have Hispanic people with textured hair, you have Asian people with textured hair. They were an afterthought. A lot of products were not made with them in mind. So Black founders understood dryness, they understood shrinkage, they understood product buildup, and they also understood the emotional side of learning about our hair. And that kind of trust is truly powerful. So when something is that powerful comes up, people pay attention, and sometimes it translates to money, right? So I was going to ask you, why do Black customers feel emotionally connected to Black-owned haircare brands?
For some of the reasons I've just listed. And I also say pretty much all the reasons I've listed. And it depends, depending on who you talk to, the varying levels at which these things matter. Like I said, there is for me personally, really a desire to see, because I believe if we are spending a lot of money, if we are bringing a lot of revenue to something, we should be getting something back. And there's no reason why in a lot of areas where this is happening, the community is making their money back. They say, do you know what? If we're able to produce our own products, why on earth not? We have raw materials back home. In a lot of African nations, we've got the brains, we've got everything we need. So why not? Why are we not able to make that money back? And it's very important for things like legacy, for things like protection, economic protection, and so on and so forth. And everybody has racial bias to some degree. As much as this might be controversial, as much as we all want to disagree, and I don't think I'm not saying one race is better than the other. Race is a social construct at the end of the day, but everybody has some form of bias, something that breeds familiarity, and unfortunately, a shared experience for a lot of Black people has been subjugation to some degree in many fields. So there is the economic perspective. There is also the perspective of nobody was really championing Black hair care, whether they got everything right or not, like the natural girlies, the Black natural girlies on YouTube. Nobody was really championing it like they were. So, and it comes with hair isn't just hair. We like to say it is, but it isn't, because it affects how people treat us. We've seen recently on TikTok, a very popular influencer wore hair in a certain way to a wedding, and it wasn't just that people said they didn't like the style. People then made assumptions about whether or not she was clean, who she was, the way, so on and so forth. So the way you show up, there was a huge recognition that the way you show up matters, especially in different settings. And so hair isn't just hair to us. It's so much more than that. Obviously, it's tied to our history and so much more. And so we have that emotional attachment because it comes with all of these things that no one can really understand in depth the way we do, and no one has really experienced in depth the way we have. And so I feel like that's why perhaps it was almost like a family member. We get a lot more hurt if a Black-owned business does something that they're not supposed to do. We're a little bit more pained by it, like we expected better. But also there's that desire of, I'm pretty sure if a Black-owned business thrives, and there are quite a few that are thriving, which a lot of people are, pioneering and proud of, because then we can say, especially when people say things like, oh, what have you done as a group of people? We've created this, and going back to that legacy as well. And that affirmation back to ourselves, that it is possible. It is possible to go beyond the limitations of, the economic status, or accepting ourselves the way we are, and so much more than our previous generations, to carry on that message of self-love, to carry on that message of pushing back against stereotypes as well. So I think that there's a lot more attachment and detachment sometimes to Black-owned brands for that reason. So yeah, I think that is why you will always find that there's a lot of controversy between it. And unfortunately, because that is the nature of things, this is where we'll talk about targeting a little bit more. Controversy sells, marketing sells. And you sometimes have people, brands, entities, whatever you want to call it, infiltrate those spaces, jump off the back of probably something that the Black community is trying to hash out when it comes to hair care, or so on and so forth. And then they infiltrate that because they see an opportunity, marketing, to make money, to draw people in, and to get their attention. Yes, there are a lot of brands that actually do care about Black hair and Black hair care to some degree. I'm not saying that they are not Black brands, but this is just business 101.
Yeah.
They see an opportunity, they will jump for it. And so, yeah, that is, we are so emotionally invested. And like I said, even if somebody says they're not, we're all emotionally invested in our hair to some degree. The majority of people are. Even for someone like me, and I shared this before, I didn't even know what my hair texture was until I was 14. That's how disassociated I was. So if you talk about not being emotionally invested, I was a poster child for that.
Yeah.
Yet I could not understand why every single person around me wanted to have an opinion on how I should wear my hair, in my hijab, out of my hijab, why I'm wearing my, and I was just so annoyed. So whether you like it or not, it is somehow going to have an impact on you. And so for that reason, I think there is an emotional investment, a little bit more than I would say. There's an emotional investment in hair because we've just not been allowed to be so free with it,
Yeah.
or free to this level. We're not there yet,
We're
but
not there yet. We're
we're
still,
getting there
yeah. I
on a
would say,
broader global scale. Yeah.
yeah, I would say like, yeah, there's still that, how will I put it, supervision that we experience when
Oh
it
yeah.
comes to our hair, or
Yep.
unsolicited comments or advice
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
it comes to our hair. And, it is rather unfortunate. And I think you did allude to this point. So we were told that our hair was too difficult or too hard to serve. And then you have Black founders that have actually proved otherwise.
Hmm.
Suddenly now, curly and coily hair have become a major growth category in beauty, and we're at the point whereby coils that used to be considered unpleasant are now very marketable. So it's clear that Black hair care brands created value, but who gets to benefit from it?
Mm.
That's where we are. So now I
That.
wanted to
Mm.
diverge
Mm.
a little bit because I think it's good for us to actually talk about this targeting or the things that eventually show you what targeting looks like. But
Mm.
it will be important to understand how there is, should I say, copying happening? We're seeing
Mm.
it from mainstream brands, and essentially they're trying to do what smaller Black owned hair care brands are doing. So you have products, right? For example, like a Black owned brand creates a product, and then you see like a larger brand creates something that's kind of similar, but then they have more money, more shelf space, they have more advertising budget, but then the messaging is very similar. The product might not be identical, the packaging might not exactly be identical, but you can feel that there's something
Mm.
here that resonates across both products, right? The inspiration for this product from a bigger company, it's crystal clear where it came from. So, Rahma, where
Mm.
is the line between healthy competition and cultural extraction?
Um, Unfortunately, capitalism makes that very difficult. And I say this because that's just the nature of how a lot of big companies prey on smaller ones.
Mm,
And we have the unfortunate position of, because a lot of us are nouveau riche in that sense, when it comes to the business sector in the modern space at large compared to others. Not because we've not been involved in it in some way, but because we're talking about having top level roles and budgets and that kind of thing. I recently spoke to, I won't say the brand, but they have a big parent company. This big parent company is in stores internationally.
mm.
The product, a lot of people still believe is Black owned, but it's not.
I think I
In fact,
already know.
oh, I don't think, well, I think this one has gone under the radar
Eh?
because nobody talked about it. Because I spoke to someone who was one of the marketers for it. For
Mm,
50 years, the product has not been Black owned. 50 years. But what they do is they have a Black team, and you might think, yes, that's great. They always made sure they had a Black team at the forefront. However, the budget person told me the budget is always quite low because they see them as a small company. So we will pick your mind and we will take what we can from you,
mm,
make the money that we can. And that's just what I mean by we don't have the level of power yet. We're getting there. Well, hopefully we'll get there eventually to be able to go head to head when things like this happen.
Yeah.
So there is, and I also think that there is a confidence. The confidence to do that to a lot of Black businesses also comes from the idea that when it comes to marketing power in the West or buying power in the West, because of a lot of the foundations of, once again, this might be controversial, the foundations that colonization has laid, not just in the minds of people who are non-Black, but also Black people. There is already that innate thing to just trust the big brands because they are the big brands, but they must know what they're doing. And also what they also have is the ability to, this is kind of, like I said, it's never just hair. The ability to understand that, say, for example, because they are huge and they have the marketing budget and whatnot, they can afford to have products at a lower price.
Yep.
So even if you as a Black person don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, this is what I can afford right now. Compared to the Black-owned brand who's doing it on their own, sourcing everything on their own, they literally cannot, they shouldn't have to put the same price as a very large brand. It's just, this is what I mean. That there's a confidence in the idea that even if there's people who are annoyed by it, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And so there isn't a lot of accountability, which is why they get away with it and they carry on getting away with it. Also, this is more recent, ever since the, I keep mentioning controversial figures, but ever since the Andrew Tate era and the whole idea of rage baiting became over popularized. It wasn't that it wasn't known, but that just over popularized everything. And the whole idea to cause war in the comments, controversy and rage baiting is also now a form of marketing.
Yeah.
So especially if a Black-owned brand hasn't, or a small business hasn't patented their product, and sometimes a patent isn't enough. So this is what I mean. Like there's so many economic ladders to climb when you don't have something established.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult to protect your ideas. Makes it very easily for big sharks to swoop in and take those ideas, because they're always looking. They're always looking for, where is the demand? Where can I make money? And it is about the money, and it's not about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your community. They just care about making money. If looking like they care about your community is going to make them money, in some brands, I always say some, not all, but a lot of them, if looking like they care about that your community is going to make them money, then they will do that.
Yeah.
So the greatest thing that you can do, or we can do as Black people, and this is, like I say, this is hard, because if I am struggling, I might not be able to afford a Black-owned brand.
Yep.
But we always say, if we're able to afford McDonald's and fast food and a whole bunch of things, you probably can. But let's just say I cannot afford Black-owned brands. This is all I've got. So I don't look down on people who can't buy Black-owned out of affordability, who pander to those, who give their coins to those big companies. But at the same time, that is the structure in which we are up against. I do think that there is copying happening.
Yeah.
They are creating think tanks of Black people, to which some do it out of genuine care of really wanting to cater to the community that they're selling to.
Yeah.
And some do it because it's a great box to tick. Hey, look, we are so diverse. We have a Black team at the helm of our product, but we constantly lowball them when it comes to budget. And so on and so forth. So it's a money thing, and it's also a time thing, because the monopolies that be when it comes to products and just economics, they always want to have it all for themselves.
Yeah.
So whether you're Black or Hispanic or white or wherever you came from, to them it's about making the money. And so those are the people, those are the companies that are really making it difficult, really, really, really difficult for Black-owned businesses, for smaller businesses to thrive, and to be able to put their ideas out. Social media is helping a little bit, because now we have a timestamp of, we know that this person's the one that made it. How dare you? People, we can cause problems for them in terms of it disrupts their marketing flow when
Yeah.
people start having a go at them. But then, some of them leverage it and use the rage bait for something else,
Yeah,
for their
it's
own.
rather unfortunate, man. I feel like we can have a space where people try to make money without involving so much trickery and craziness.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be that way, but that's the reality
That's
of where we are.
in the ideal world, that would be the truth. But sadly,
Yeah. Yeah.
not.
And you know what? Like we all know that Black hair, Black art, Black culture has always been creative. We create styles, we create routines, techniques, trends, entire beauty categories now. And
Mm.
too often, the people who actually create the culture don't receive the largest reward from the culture. And when Black-owned brands try to protect what they built, they're sometimes told that they're being emotional.
Mm.
As you said, right? This is important, right? Protecting your work is important. It's not emotional. It is essential. It's survival. This is how
Mm.
you build legacies, right? And this is how you also build economies. So, as you said, like targeting can happen in different ways, right? It can be very subtle. And sometimes it's actually behind the scenes. You have a Black-owned brand who's struggling to get funding, you know, I think for me, a lot of Black-owned brands that I've heard their story, they started with their own personal money, including myself. Like we spend money and people don't understand. Um, when you think about bigger companies, it's not necessarily their money, it's investment, it's shares, it's this, it's that. We're spending money that we have to basically make something great and help cater to people's hair and their confidence, not just their hairs. As you said, it's deeper than hair. So for some of these Black-owned brands, as I was saying, it could be that they would get like a less of favorable retail term, or they might be pushed into a corner to have to scale very quickly, or they have to deal with pressure from pricing, promotions, inventory. And if you can't keep up, people say you failed. But is it that they did fail, or are we just in a space that was actually never built to protect Black brands? And I was going to ask you this question. So, how can retail pressure make it harder for Black owned brands to actually survive?
Okay, so there's many levels, and I don't always pigeonhole it to Black owned brands, because this is
Oh,
actually
yeah,
something
sure.
that across the board when you're a small business,
Yeah.
especially a small business with something that is seen as niche.
Mm,
Um, you have to first of all fight to prove, especially because most of the time you'll be talking to people with the investors a lot of times who are
yep.
not Black, who have no idea about the industry, so on and so forth. Some who do, some who don't. But literally, Black hair care and where it's going, they don't have that industry foresight, a lot of them, to really understand how Black consumers
Mm,
consume beyond what they've already seen, or even the possibility of changing the way Black consumers consume so that they are buying more of these brilliant, well formulated products. So you oftentimes having to, that the first level, having to over explain and prove every single step of
yeah.
what you do. Whereas, let's say if I decide to come up and start, I don't know, a lash business, I just need to have a unique selling point and I'm good
Mm,
to go. I don't have to explain why people want to wear lashes. It's just, well, not that I want to, but I've just literally pulled that out of the thin air. Or if I decide to make a specific type of clothing business, as long as I have a unique selling point and something that people have the back, I don't have to explain why, the culture behind it. It's I don't have to go that deep in order to be able to get some level of investment, especially if it's seen as something that it can. They like things that can be replicated to a large mass of people rather than a niche amount of people. I
mm,
have been told, and I have been advised by a marketer who's worked with very big companies. She's amazing. She's been one of my coaches. But she said things like, it might be easier if you don't just cater to Black people. And in a math sense,
wow.
she's right.
Yeah.
She wasn't saying that to be rude. She wasn't saying that to be, but she was saying it as just as a matter of, this is what I mean by sometimes
Mm,
business does not care.
yep.
Business is about the numbers and the
Yep.
money.
It's not about
So
feelings.
if you open up the pool, if you can get more people on board easier, that's bigger demand. That's more money. So when you are catering to just Black people, or you're catering to a specific niche, that already shortens your pool. So that's something you are going to have to deal with. And obviously explaining that, and convincing people of your vision a little bit more. It's a little bit more difficult. You have to have a lot more checks and balances in play. So that's two. The third thing, like I said, is the parent companies. You've talked about the funding, the money that you yourself have to put in, because you don't get that investment as easily as, let's say, another business that isn't as niche as yours. But the parent companies, and I will give an example. I don't mind sharing these two amazing Black-owned brand, ANC Lifestyle. I know as well they've had a Black formulator, brilliant products. These two brands, Anytime and ANC Lifestyle. But the founder of Healthy Hair Studio, Anytime, this is a woman who has, and I'm not saying this as an exaggeration, she has seen over 1,000 heads, deals with hair loss, specifically, especially with women with tight coils, also for women without tight coils. She runs a clinic, everything. She was at a John Lewis pop-up. And if you don't know what John Lewis are, they are a very well-known clothing, beauty supermarket all over the UK. I wouldn't say that they're like Target, but they're probably like slightly in the upper echelons of
Probably like
the
maybe I'm trying to think, maybe like a Nordstrom's here. Yeah. Yeah, I think
possibly almost like a Nordstrom's,
yeah,
but
almost like a Nordstrom's, yeah.
they're very popular. They're still accessible to the average person, but
Mm.
also they do have some stuff that's really, really considered of high quality. But anyway, they do have a beauty section. And she did a pop-up there. And this woman has created a presence. This is years and years in the making, by the way. She's already created a presence. She's created products. And the queue for her products at the pop-up outsold brands like Charlotte Tilbury, and other big brands. And I'm not saying Charlotte Tilbury, listen, I'm just giving the facts.
Yes.
I sent somebody down to London just so I could get one of her products. That's how big the queue was. And she was constantly being told by, they had to get like, I don't know what those things are, like barricades or whatever, to manage the lines and the queues. And they said they've not seen this type of buzz or literally crowd around a product in any pop-up for years. So in her head, I have proven myself, right? I've proven myself to be a brand, this is not her, she's not a new brand, she didn't just start. This is years and years of work, of research, somebody who is deep in the science of hair care, very deep. Till this day, I've not found one person, and anyone can quote me on that, who has the depth of knowledge with the nuance of what it is to have textured hair, what you struggle with, and also how to teach it and I've not found anybody who tops that for me yet. Anywho, only for her. And then she asks, is there a possibility that my products can be, maybe bleep out the John Lewis part, because I don't know if she was supposed to share this. If there is a possibility that I can sell my products in your store. You have seen, not one day, by the way, the pop-up's not one day, not 2 days, anytime I'm there, that you can hold my products in your shelves. And then the question she was asked was, what parent company are you under?
What?
And I'll tell you why. This is what I mean. If there's a business decision, and there's also sometimes as well, because you're a Black-owned brand, but the reason I say that is, what a parent company can do is, because they have a lot of investors, they have a lot of money and backing behind them. If there is any issues with delay in shipments, we can pay for it very quickly. They already have established networks they can pull from. If there is any issue, we know the fact that it's a parent company, they have so many things in place to deal with it. We don't ever have to really worry about the product getting to us on time, blah, blah, blah. Marketing, they'll pay us even a bigger budget for marketing, perhaps.
Yeah.
There's that, but then there's also your Black-owned business, which I still say America does this better than the UK, because I feel like if you walk into an American store, from what I've seen from videos from people that go down there, there is a vast array of products. The Black hair care section is well stocked.
Yep.
UK is building and getting bigger, but it's the same parent companies that are buying a lot of it. Because the UK is smaller, the black population is slightly smaller, the marketing power is slightly smaller, and so on and so forth. But that becomes, there's another barrier now that you're going to have to try and jump over, because you now have two choices. Forget the idea of ever being in that store because you don't want to sell part of your business to a parent company, or sell to a parent company and lose certain certain decision-making powers within your product. And also, especially because you're a Black-owned business, especially if that's something you've marketed yourself to be, and that emotional connection that we have, now risk for the community that has put you on a pedestal to turn their back against you because now you have sold out. And then your business. So it's a very difficult place to be in.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. Apart from the money, the marketing, and this is what I mean by they always like marketing that is focused on a large, that can expand beyond one group of people.
Yeah.
Because then it's easier to, and you know, when you market, I find for a lot of black people, when they market as Black-owned, especially on the big screen and big TV, there's so much hate that they get from other communities. So there's also that level of scrutiny from other communities. How they only say it's only for Black people. You clearly, you're being, there's accusations of racism and so on and so forth. I have seen this in comments. Somebody will put up an ad about their product. They'll say that they do cater to Black-owned, and all of a sudden there's an issue. When a lot of people don't understand, when we say that, we're not saying that to say everybody else is excluded. We're saying that to mean we see this is our primary USP. This is our primary, not USP, sorry, our primary, these are our primary audience that we really want to cater for. These are the audience that have brought us here to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? The majority of the people buying our products were Black women, or Black men, were Black people. And Black people care that they are heard and listened to, because for a lot of times we weren't.
Yeah.
So we want to honor that. We're not saying that white people can't use these products. If they work, brilliant, we love it. And so it makes it very difficult. I mean, we know a very popular brand that decided to branch out, and they had an advert with women from all races. They switched from being really, really focused on Black-owned to all of a sudden an ad came out with women of all races. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was a switch without marketing it properly. Because that can be done. You could say, we are happy to hear that our products are working for women all around the world, but no, it was just like, all of a sudden there's a switch in marketing, and you've lost a large portion of that audience that was there with you at the very beginning, and you don't have the staying power to continue marketing without that funding. So there's just so many levels to the decision a Black business owner has to make. Like I said, me being privileged enough to consult with a few of them, from those who are just starting out to those who are a little bit more established, to being in connection with marketers, so on and so forth, has really, really, and this is why sometimes I get a little bit thumb happy on social media, and I get quite very annoyed, very disappointed when I see other Black creators or professionals who don't understand that landscape coming in and feeding into that whole silly narrative that somehow Black-owned product, just because you haven't found them because of lack of marketing. And I remember having this discussion with somebody, and her response with me was, well, how are they marketing? And I thought,
marketing costs money.
Well, I said, they do the best they can with the budget they have. Just because you haven't found them does not mean that they don't exist.
I think people don't. Yeah, you were saying.
I'm sorry, I was going to say one point that I just realized then, when you say products marketed towards Black people, ask yourself, who's doing the marketing? Who's doing the marketing? Who's in charge of the budget? Who's in charge of what's being put out there? So I was extremely disappointed in this person who is a professional, wears a lab coat on social media and everything, who has kind of been in the middle of another controversy of pushing another product that really failed when it comes to black hair care.
Dang,
I don't think she did that intentionally. I don't think she hates
I don't
the
think
blacks,
so too.
but I think it was a blind spot.
Yeah.
There are blind spots there. And so I do hold professionals to a little, and those are the people we should hold to higher regard.
Yep.
I do hold the scientists to a little bit of a higher standard. Yes, the
Yeah.
science changes, but you should be very clear in your messaging about exactly what you mean. You should take extra care, you should be extra careful. Because what they say has a wide impact, because those who are creating black
Mm.
businesses, black hair care brands are listening to them.
Yep.
Those who are trying to learn about their hair are listening to them. Investors who want to know more about the topic are listening to them as trusted sources. So we've got to be very, very careful. So I feel like these are a lot of the barriers that a lot of black businesses have to try, and it's like that glassing that we have to try and break. It is happening a lot better in the beauty space.
Mm-hmm.
It is happening a lot better. When I say the beauty space, I'm talking about the makeup space. It is far more better. I mean, you've heard of brands like topical skincare, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So topicals is doing really, really well on the skincare end. There is a black-owned brand that's done this, which is brilliant. Camille Rose. I always say Camille Rose is brilliant because they have stayed black-owned. Even for them to be able to, they grew in America and then they're here in the UK as well, without having to be underneath a parent company. They have done really well. Design Essentials have done really well. There's just so many amazing black-owned businesses that are just breaking barriers after barriers. These two women holding it down. I don't want to say they're a small business, but they are in the larger scheme of things
They
compared
are a
to
small
other
business.
people.
Yeah.
They are, but they are. If you see the technology that they are innovating within their products, the levels of testing that they go through here in the EU, there is. I'm not saying it isn't strict in America, but the EU is known to be one of the strictest.
America
I'll
is
give you
getting there. America is
America's
getting
getting there.
there.
Actually,
Thanks
I
to
do agree.
California, America is getting there. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And that's really important because I think that also feeds into a lot of the distrust when it comes to products that are marketed towards us. But
Mm-hmm.
here in the UK, there is, when I say extreme strictness, I'll give you an example. A brand can, because you've got to first of all source your material,
Mm-hmm.
then you pay your formulator to formulate the product, which
Mm-hmm.
costs a lot of money, by the way, and it needs to be
Exactly.
done under standards. Then you've got your testing phase to see how well your product actually works on other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then after you've done that, you now have to take your products through the EU guidelines and testing. So it has to pass tests at different stages. And this process can take 3 to 6 months or even more. So it has to pass at different temperatures. So you might feel like you have the perfect formulation, and then at 40 degrees, everything goes left.
Yep.
You will have to start again. And you might think, oh, great, I'm going to go to this place to get the same ingredients again. I just need a different, and they might say we're out of stock.
Yep.
So now everything's delayed and you've bought all the marketing. You're supposed to be sending your products out to these people at this time to do the marketing for you. Start again and again and again and again until, yes, we finally passed. Go back to my people who got me my raw materials. We're out.
Yep.
I've already put the date of launching down. A lot of people don't understand the depth of what this is. One of the reasons why I'm not. People's like, Rahma, have you not? I said
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I don't think I can deal with the stress.
The things that you said just reminded me of the nightmares that I had to deal with when I started ANC DARA. Like I would tell you, these are things that are very similar. You started from
Couriers, the people that ship your products, messing things
exactly,
up because
exactly. And the really cool thing is this for me. I feel like
Mm,
being a Black hair care founder has taught me resilience. Um,
mm,
Initially, you might start thinking, okay, this is the process, this is how you do things. And I think in the US is a little bit different, right? You don't necessarily have the FDA like approving your product. However,
yeah.
as a hair care brand that is responsible, and I know I'm probably talking from a place of privilege, so I will caveat what I'm going to say with this. It's important for you to go to the experts who have the proper licenses or certifications, right? To basically try to formulate your products, right? People that hold strict standards, in terms of following the correct ways of manufacturing, in terms of selecting ingredients in a way that is ethical, right? Not just ethical, but also you're thinking about people that are not using shortcuts. You have to be diligent in that regard. And I feel like maybe that's where sometimes, due to, how will I put it, due to constraints on money, right? It might be easier for people to just go a slightly different route, which doesn't mean that they're not doing the right thing. It's just because they can't afford it. And affordability should not restrict you from actually being able to develop and create solutions for people. That's just the fact. For me, yes, we go through standards, work with formulators, Black hair care formulators, to create products and actually test them. But honestly, it's expensive, and it can be, as Rahma said, like it could be crazy. The whole process is like you're going in circles.
There's so many checks and balances, and you are relying. It's like you think, oh, I'll do it by myself. Like, if I could do it, I will. I know somebody who's literally quit her job. She went part-time and eventually quit it so that she could actually become the formulator and follow the compliance. She's a brilliant, I think she was already in the science field prior, which made it a little bit easier. And I'm actually trying to find her name. She's one of the very few hijabis. She's also a hijabi on Instagram that I found, who's delving into the science up to that level. But she transformed her whole kitchen, followed all compliance, did all the checks and balances, and now she teaches other Black formulators and Black women to do the same. And so it is, and then she goes through all the testing phase, everything to check that her products actually work. But you know, like you say, you have to be in a position of privilege where you're economically capable to do that. And a lot of people aren't, economically capable. And sometimes some people are, but they might not be physically capable. There might be other responsibilities that take up a lot of their time. Or they might not be able to afford the time to be able to do those things. And so it's so difficult because you have to rely on all these people to fulfill their end of the bargain, fulfill doing things ethically. Fulfill shipping your products out packaged properly without messing it up. Fulfill those who are formulating it, doing their job right and giving you the correct information. You're relying on all of that before your products even gets to your customer. And if there is a breakdown in any of those major chains, which is not a fault of yours, especially if you paid for the service and you check the service and everything seems to be fine, you've done your due diligence, then there is nothing you can do. You are at the mercy of people waiting. And you've got the mercy of people. Which is
so you know what is so funny? I'm glad you actually brought this up, because it just made me recall a recent experience. So yes, we're talking about Black brands, and I feel like, as you said, we really need to hold each other to a high standard. So for me, I did have a manufacturer that I worked with that delivered my initial products, but these are things that people don't see. You're working with, and for me, it's not about being Black, it's about who can deliver well. So I worked with manufacturers who happen to be Black, but they have been the worst people ever, you know? And I think we're not, and that's why I like this conversation. We're not necessarily saying that all Black people are perfect. People can be problematic, simple. And sometimes as business owners, you're at the mercy of people. And when it comes to business, they don't even care about color, right? You're the brand, you care, you're trying to make sure you cater. But even the person that you feel, okay, like we're all Black here, you should understand, they don't even care. For them, it's about the money. So it's this conversation is interesting, and it's so complicated. But in trying to deal with budgets and trying to deal with people doing what they're supposed to do, man, Black brands are, it's not just being targeted by, I guess, mainstream companies, man. It can even be your own people to start with.
And sometimes familiarity in business isn't always the greatest.
Exactly.
And you will find this across the board. As much as we say Black, I also don't want to just pigeonhole it to, as you said before, pigeonhole it to Black, but I just really think it's like your family saying, oh, one family discount, or you ask a family member to come and do a job for you, and they feel like because your family, I'm just relax and not do exactly what what they're supposed to do, to the standard in which they need to do it. You almost have to be ruthless and brutal for them to understand that this is not a game. I know to play
Yes.
with my money. But where money is involved, unfortunately, the politics of money, the economics of money, the capitalism of it all, I feel like in a lot of cases, capitalism, money, I don't want to even just keep money,
Just money.
wins over a lot of things, and power. So, say for example, you do have maybe somebody that you're working with to help you put out the product, and they are not really fulfilling their end of the bargain. If you were a company that they knew had the buying power, economic power to sue the hell out of them, that is less likely to happen.
Exactly.
And so this is another thing where I feel like, again, a lot of Black-owned brands, small businesses in general, are at a disadvantage. There is just, if they think that you have the power to hold them to a certain level of accountability, then most of the time they will move different.
Yeah.
But if they feel like there is no accountability here, I can get the money without having to worry about, she can sit and complain what she's going to do. She probably doesn't have money to sue me. I probably have more power than her, buying power than her, what's going to happen. And we see this time and time and time and time again in business. Yeah. And unfortunately, if you are an up-and-coming Black-owned businesses, apart from dealing with the racial responsibilities, perceptions, and so on and so forth, there's also this. But I also don't want it to feel like this is it, the end all and be all. I don't want it to feel like there is no hope. Because, like I said, I have seen and I continue to see a lot of amazing Black-owned brands. I've already shared a few with you who have done it, who are mentoring others on how to do it. I think what is so important is mentorship. I'm here because of amazing mentorship. And when I talk about creating that legacy so that we can continue to pull each other up, I think that that is really what will change a lot for us. I know a Black woman in the UK who's doing that quite a bit, actually. She started a podcast, and you don't have to agree with everything she says or does. I don't either, but Em agreed. She's one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. And she actually chose to invest in a Black hair care brand, actually one of the Black hair care brands that I was talking about earlier. Invest to them in some degree. I can't remember whether it's purely monetary. I think she did. She was one of the dragons. I don't know if you guys have heard of Dragon's Den. It's kind of like Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Shark Tank when you go and you pitch your idea. And the panel, like I said, the panel weren't really understanding, but this is another woman. She's a mixed heritage, but she classed herself as Black, who understood it, gave advice to some degree, invited her over to, she had like a women's business women's gathering that she holds quite often, and which was great because then you're able to make connections with people and develop that mentorship. So I think it's always good to have that springboard, because I think another thing that a lot of Black-owned brands have been denied, intentionally or unintentionally. Obviously, in America, it's a lot worse when you look at the past and the history, but access, because there is a realm of possibility that you can open your mind up to when you have access, when you are in those spaces, when you can see how it's being done and understand the things you need to put in place, the checks and balances you need to put in place to achieve what you want to achieve. And when you don't have that mentorship, you don't have that ability, oftentimes your perception of what you can do is limited. Yeah. And so that's why I really strongly believe in mentorship. Like I said, I'm here today because of the amazing mentorship of brilliant Black women all across the world. It has helped me immensely. And I think that really has the power to change a lot of things for us, because what it also helps us do is build a collective, and we're always stronger in numbers, which can help on so many levels, on so many fronts. So I don't think that there is no hope. Like I said, Camille Rose has done it. Yeah. And Camille Rose is not the only one. Design Essentials, what they did was they focused on salons, which they're branching out a little bit more, and they just came here to the UK. I did say to tell Yeah, they just did. And I did tell someone they're going to have to do more marketing for the UK. Because the UK, we're skeptical buyers. A lot of people might not have heard of Design Essential if you're not a salon owner. So if you
Yeah.
want to be selling in major stores, which they are now, you're going to have to do. I think they're relying a lot on social media at the moment, which is really pushing them.
I
You're
think in
going to
the
have
US, they
to.
ventured into stores for the longest time because that was where I came across them.
Um,
This was
yeah, they
years
were in
ago.
stores, but I think they started off with salons and really focusing on salons, and I think branched out from that later on. But Design Essentials doing it. There's so many brands that are doing it,
Mm.
and I applaud them. Those within them that are building that platform and building that legacy that makes it easier for others coming after them to be able to establish their own businesses. But yeah, I think that that's very, 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 very important. And the story can change. Who knows? Who knows? This is the thing with business.
Sure.
1 minute you could be an established business, and the next everything could be gone, or vice versa. So don't give up, is what I would say to Black businesses.
Yeah.
I have entered the business space a little bit. I dipped my toe in with my coloring book. In fact, if you don't mind me showing my coloring book right here.
I
So it's a
like
curly
that.
hair and hijab coloring book.
Yeah.
And I experienced a lot of the things that I mentioned with regards to the pushback, which shocked me. I ran an ad for the first time, and oh my God, people had a lot to say about me having
People
a
see,
book.
this is the thing. People
Course,
always have a lot to say. If people are always saying
exactly.
good things about you, you should be worried.
You know what? You're 100% right. But literally,
You should be worried.
I shouldn't have been shocked, but I was just like, goodness gracious me. And literally, these are even videos, like the marketing material was videos with my nieces, like the faces weren't on camera, but just
Yeah.
their expression and how they felt opening the book. And I wanted it to be 100% natural reaction and everything, and how they felt looking through the book and how they handled it. These girls, initially, they did not look at this like a coloring book. They were like, right, this is the style you're going to do for me today. And this is the style you're going to do for me today. So they treated this like a magazine, which I didn't even think. I thought this is even better because I was intentional about the styles I picked also being styles that would be easier for mothers to do, not like impossible if the child went, this is what I want. But literally those little things. And then I have another one that sees it more like, it's a coloring book that I can just enjoy, that I feel like I see myself, like my hijab. I wear my hijab like this. I have this. And just to get them to enjoy it. But anyway, that's a side note. Coming back to what we're talking about, if just me just dipping my toe in and dealing with that, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And I don't know if I have the emotional, okay, it's not that I don't have the emotional capacity. I just, no, there's other things I feel like I could focus on.
Just be
I
ready
don't
to
think
get.
I have the,
You can do it. Just have your support system ready. That's all I'll tell you. Have it.
listen, that's what I'm trying to build. And if there is somebody, listen, I'm going to throw this out there. Somebody that wants to make an undercut for Black and Muslim women, I have ideas. I'm putting that out there. The science behind it, I have designed everything. Reach out to me. I would love to collaborate with you. I don't
Awesome.
have the big funding, but I've got the mindset. I've got the head. I've got the consultations. I have the platform. I will support. I will support. But anyway, this is what I mean by it's hope is not lost. And
Yeah.
I'm excited as well because I feel like even with all these things happening,
Yeah.
the consumer is becoming more aware
Yeah.
on all fronts.
The
We're more
customers are being
aware.
all aware. Yeah.
Exactly. The customers are being more aware.
Yeah.
Where is this product coming from? Is this product contributing to war? Is
Mm.
this product going to actually, after testing it for a while, is it actually working? Because things are so tight today, is this product worth the money that I'm spending?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So the customer isn't just buying blindly all the time anymore.
Mm-mm.
There is morals and ethics attached to how people want to spend their money.
And you know, the
And
interesting
so,
thing is that
mm,
it is in people being more informed and aware that you have brands actually being created. And that was my story as the founder of my brand. I started learning more about ingredients. I started understanding that certain things were just not right. And my hair wasn't thriving, but it was in realizing, okay, like what am I doing to my hair? What am I using on my hair? There were certain brands that you mentioned. I remember back in the day, I used some brands. I'm not going to say which one. And I just felt like it wasn't it for my hair. It was not catering to me. And I figured I want to create something that works really, really amazing. And it's funny because now when I have customers, they tend to come back and be like, yeah, like this is what I wanted. This is what I felt like I wasn't able to get. And
Mm.
for me, that was what happened. It's just realizing actually I want to be more informed. I want to be more clever what I'm doing. And for some people, that's how you actually end up creating a brand because you're trying to address a need that's still there.
Mm. Do you know what? First of all, hats off to you, because I've watched you. You talked about this to me in like the very early days, doing like your idea phase and everything. And I am so, so proud of you. Like, you made me feel like it's possible, even though I still don't want to do it. I will leave that to people. I am too, do you know what? I'm saying have hope, but I am so traumatized. I'm like, I don't feel like I want to dip I like the education space. That's the space I want to be in. And I will support you guys 100%, but still, well done. Because like I said, as I was saying those things I've heard businesses go through, and the fact that you're still, it's resonating with you as well. The fact that you've gone through all of that drama with couriers, with making sure that things are formulated properly, with making sure that things are done on the timeline which you've agreed that they were going to be done, and so on and so forth.
To taking losses from a very irresponsible manufacturer. Like what you said, right? Like there's a standard that we hold ourselves to. For me, I'm like, I've seen products that are made that are very finicky, and I'm just like, what are you giving this to? When you're creating things for people with textured hair, you create it with dignity. You understand? But then when you have another person who is Black, who I would think would understand the issue, creating something that's super, I'm like, I'd rather take that loss than put it out there for people because we deserve better. We deserve to be treated with grace and respect.
And this is why I say that nobody can understand it like we do.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I'll throw in another, because I've been getting insider tidbits. Very, very popular hair care brand here in the UK. I will not mention their name. They're not Black owned or focused on Black people either. But they saw an opportunity to capitalize off the back of Black History Month. We've had George Floyd and a lot of movement, Black Lives Matter, and so on and so forth. And also seeing that Black hair is also becoming a huge thing. Their product does not work for our hair texture, but they have the money and they paid a Black professional a significant amount of money to do a video to say it works. I'm trying to say this is what goes on with some brands. Now, I'm not saying every single person that's paid to market a product, but even sometimes our professionals can be compromised.
Yeah.
This product does not, there is no evidence that it functions for the function in which it was created for, that it functions well for textured hair. But this is what they did behind the scenes. This is what a lot of brands do behind the scenes. The professional is being paid to say, it's like drug companies. I want to pay this pharmacist or this doctor to say that our medicine is the best one, whether or not it has been thoroughly tested. And these are like, these trickle down from, if you think of any business, they trickle down. So for me to even hear that, the person that was telling me, she was like, yeah, girl, this is, she showed me the evidence and everything. And I was like, this person's a proper professional. Why would they do that? And the video doesn't even have that many views. Like, but they did that because then they've ticked off that box. Oh no, we do cater. There was a brand who I actually spoke to that kind of took it in good stead. They're not a Black-owned brand, but their products are phenomenal. The products are great. And they do have products that are geared towards more curly hair. And I remember sharing feedback. I said, your products are great, but I use a specific word. I said, but there isn't enough visual signaling that this will cater to me. So I didn't use words like representation or racist, because they'd
Yeah.
be getting scared every time he used words like that. And they actually took that on board. They took that on board and they made quite a few changes on their page. So I do think it's definitely worth, with the brands that you can, having that conversation with them, because they do care. The founder of that brand really does care about hair care for all women. Marketing can always be a different story to the founder, as you probably know.
Exactly.
I've had so many business owners say things like, there was one that they paid for a marketing company, and the marketing company was making unfounded claims about their hair care product, saying that it will solve all these problems. And they were like, no, take
No.
the Facebook ad out now.
Thank
People
you.
like that want to maintain that integrity. And it's so hard when you see the coins rolling in. But she was like, no. So this is what I mean. This is the same thing that happened with that popular brand that switched very quickly.
Yeah.
And who was on the marketing team? Who were the people on the marketing team? Not only were they not of the racial demographic, they were also, I would always even say, that not of the age group of that graphic, which I think made it worse. Because I feel like if they were, I feel like as the age group, you'll understand, like, this is what people within this age group care about, the politics and all of that. I think that even did them more of a disservice not to understand that this is not how you go about it. These kind of things in the 2020, 2016, 27, whatever year that happened. But yeah, applaud to you for going through all of that. I look upon people that have come out the other end with so much admiration and respect. And I think too many people don't understand.
No, they
Exactly.
don't understand. They don't understand. You have to be class captain. As a founder, you have to be class captain. You have to be like helicopter mom, monitoring every single thing, because some people can go rogue intentionally or unintentionally.
Exactly. It's like building your house. You hire the builders, you have to stand on their neck.
You have
to make
to,
sure that, because
otherwise,
this
one
house that you're
chance.
building, it's not small money that you spent.
It's not. Otherwise, you enter one
Small
chance.
money. I'm
So
telling
if you
you.
don't understand what one chance means, that means you put yourself at great risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once the house is built, it's not time to be finding out this foundation is weak over there or there, and then all that money and time has gone down.
Exactly.
But yeah, so my message to Black business owners would be to really just keep going forward, to keep acquiring knowledge, good mentorship when it is possible, and when they reach certain points, to give forward, which I know a lot of them already are, because it only strengthens an industry that runs a little bit deeper than money, where a lot is about money. But yeah,
no, this has been such a profound conversation. I have to say, like, as you highlighted, like, we don't see founders in the limelight. We don't understand how they serve the community, how they're trying to balance the book, manage cash flow, meet regulatory requirements, satisfy retailers. So, before everybody feels like a brand just fell off, we actually should be asking, what was the brand actually up against to start with? And I think importantly, our hair creates value. The people who understand it, will serve it, and prioritize it, deserve a fair chance to grow. Rahma, as usual, it's been a pleasure chatting with you on the podcast today. Where can our listeners find you?
It's been a pleasure talking to you as well. You can find me. The best place to get me is DM me on 4Hijabi on Instagram. That is the main place you can find me. You can also email me. My details are already there on my Instagram page. You can probably find me on TikTok. You might see me on comments sometimes. Get a little bit. These days I'm trying to reel it in, because it's reached that point where I'm just like, why are we believing nonsense? But then, yes, the best way is just DM me or email me. All the details are in my Instagram page. If you have a hair issue, a hair concern, I am very clear when I say that I am not a hair loss specialist. I know my lane. But what I can do, because I have a lot of connections, is I can direct you to people who will be able to help you. Kind of think of me like a middleman, if you will.
The connector, the plug.
The connector, the plug. And if you want to learn how to actually take care of your hair yourself, that is something I can help you with. Things like detangling your wash day routine, so on and so forth. Right now, I am really big on, I'll be releasing some things about this soon. This is free. This is not a product or anything, but it is a movement I want to start, which is beauty rooted in faith, because after having done my survey, 2,700 plus women, and speaking to women over the years, there is a unique need for hijabi women who cover, not just women who cover, Muslim women, that is deeper than just the surface. And it is breaking a lot of women down inside. So there is unspoken realities of being a covered woman with tight coils, or being a Muslim woman with tight coils. And I think that there needs to be a break in that cycle. And I will be releasing some stuff about that soon. So keep your eyes on my social media page. And there will be an event coming soon in October. Save the date, 31st of October in Manchester. We're pairing up with a salon for it. There'll be announcements for that very, very, very soon. So save the date, 31st of October at our Manchester hair event. But yeah, that is where you can find me, at the event, in my WhatsApp group. All the details on my Instagram page, link in the bio and everything.
So guys, follow Rahma for more information about her upcoming events. And of course, if you're looking for helpful hair care practices and building your own routine, check her out. So I was going to ask you guys, what's your take on this matter? Are Black hair care brands actually being targeted or not? Let us know your thoughts. Email us at hello@unravelingtheknots.com or simply DM us on Instagram at UTK Podcast. One more thing. We will appreciate your rating wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to share this episode with your family and friends. I remain your host, Ganiyat, and see you on the next episode of UTK.